Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and listening to us chat. It's a really, really beautiful day to be sat in here, and so it really, really means a lot to us that you've come to listen to us chat about our podcast. So, a bit of information. We have a podcast called Frank Film Club, and you can listen to it with that QR code if you want to. But I think it'd be great just to introduce ourselves. So I am Maisie Williams. I am more commonly known as an actor, but in the last 2 years have set up my own production company called Wrapped. And out of that, we have given birth to this podcast. And it's been so amazing for us to grow as individuals. But I'll pass over to Hannah to give a bit of background on what it is that you do.
So I'm Hannah. I am co-host of Frank Film Club, and I'm also a casting director. And I met these girls a little while ago, and then we started it together, which we'll go into a little bit in a moment. Lowri, tell us about you.
I'm Lowri, and I'm also a member of Frank Film Club, and I'm a producer and a filmmaker. I work at Wrapped with Maisie, where we're making films, trying to make feature films, basically. But yeah.
And we'll get into the struggles of that. I think it would be a really good start to chat a bit about how we all got into the film industry, because it's such a varied story for all of us. And so, Lowri, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I feel like I'm probably like the most straightforward route of the three of us. I went to uni and did film there and made short films while in uni, some like in uni, some with like, there was Channel 4 Random Acts at the time, and also BBC New Creatives, which had like funds so you could do like really short shorts. So I did a few of those, and then some of those films got into festivals, and then kind of did it that way around and was like, okay, I can actually do this, and was making my own shorts in like my spare time, and then working at some different production companies. So I used to live in Bristol and was doing it all around there, and yeah, gained experience producing, writing and directing, and then like a bit of like ADing and things like that. And then eventually moved into like full-time producing with Maisie. Yeah.
I started another company a little while ago called Daisy, and had a really complicated email address there, which was maisie@daisy.com. And Lowri guessed it, and she sent me an email saying, "Oh, my film's at London Film Festival. Do you want to come and watch it with me?" And I was actually going to go and do a talk there anyway, so I was like, that sounds perfect. And this email was like, just, I don't know, very incredible email, and I thought that you were wonderful. And then we met up and kind of became friends, and always said we wanted to make something together. And when I, really decided to make this production company, it made sense for us to do it together. So that was kind of nice. But Hannah, how did you get into the industry? Because, yeah, we also work together.
Well, Lowri shot her shot with Maisie, and Lowri didn't mention that her graduate film won a BAFTA Cymru for Best Short Film. So she was catapulted quite quickly into, like, prestigiousness with your filmmaking. And I saw her, I'm Welsh, and I saw her speech at the BAFTA Cymru Awards, and I emailed Lowri. And this is why it's great that you're all here. You should all be talking with each other if you're all filmmakers, because collaboration is the most important thing. But anyway, that's how I know the girls. We started working together on short films. And yeah, now we're doing the podcast, and we'll work on a lot of projects in the future together. But my entry into the industry was a complete fluke, to be honest with you. I was doing photography in university and fell out of love with it. And then my friend started a casting agency for background, for extras. And I asked her for a job, and she didn't give me one straight away, but then she eventually did, because I wore her down. And then I cast extras for a while, and then eventually discovered that really what I wanted to do was be a casting director. So now my job is that I'm responsible, I'm a head of department on a film or a TV project, and I'm responsible for the casting of all of the principal actors up to the extras, although I still love casting extras. So that's how I got into it, complete fluke.
Yeah, I always wanted to be a performer, and I went to sort of stage school auditions when I was 10. I was really, really annoying child. And I was kind of desperate to get into that world, and had a lot of no's and had some yeses, but never really had the money to go to like education like that. And then ended up by some strange event in Paris at Disneyland. I got like an agent. It's so bizarre. And then this agent got me an audition for Game of Thrones, and my life just completely changed. What felt like overnight. I did have a couple of years to kind of get used to the craze of it, but yeah, sort of everything that I'd ever really wanted or dreamed of ended up kind of happening. And I went through all of that, and it was like a crazy decade. And then coming out the other side of it just was really, sounds kind of strange, but I guess like was still really looking for fulfillment. And I realized I wasn't necessarily getting it from being on the show. I was getting a lot of incredible things, don't get me wrong. But it was nice to then sort of move into creating Wrapped as a production company and looking at the sort of stories that we want to tell and the sort of films that we want to see more of in the industry, and trying to use this insane opportunity that I was given to then, make new opportunities for other people who, have big dreams as well. So that's sort of how we got to where we are. I guess it could be kind of fun to, like, in terms of that origin story and getting into the film industry, like, were there any particular movies that you guys found inspired, well, yeah, your love of casting, your love of, like, the film industry?
Before I worked in film, to be honest, I don't think that I was never, it just never seemed attainable, like that would be a career for me, really. But then when I started working in casting, I was working at a background agency, casting extras, and I watched Tyrannosaur. If anyone's seen that, it's Paddy Constantine directed it. Olivia Colman, Peter Mullen, Eddie Marsan, and I just could not believe it. And from that point, actually, if you like scroll all the way back on my Instagram, I took a photo as casting director Des Hamilton, and I put it on my Instagram. That was like probably 8 years ago. And from that point, I was like, that's what I want to do. And it's taken me a really, really long time. But yeah, for me, Tyrannosaur, if anyone's not seen it, it's like the casting is incredible. Yeah.
I haven't seen that, and I really
Go
need
watch
to see
it.
Yeah.
ASAP.
Yeah, I will.
Maybe we'll do it on Frank
Maybe we'll
Film.
do it on film.
We can all watch it.
The film that actually made me want to go into film is really not cool, and it's just like Harry Potter, and I would just watch Harry Potter all the time, and watch the special features on the DVD, and was like, oh my god, that looks like the funnest thing to be in, like the making of a film. And then I think my actual like appreciation for film was like, I used to love the film Hannah, and
And we have her here today.
yeah.
Hello.
And then How I Live Now, which I found out last night that you worked on.
The first film I ever worked on inspired you to make a film, just saying.
Mad. And I think they were both like female protagonists. I don't know what it was that drew me to them, but yeah, they were fab. But Harry Potter, it's got to be.
I don't know, really. I really started discovering movies a lot later. Never really studied actors or the film industry or that sort of thing. I guess, like, in working on something which is such a massive production, like Game of Thrones, I definitely, like, saw that side of it at the beginning of my career, which is strange. Like, it usually goes the other way around. And I think I started kind of discovering more independent films. I really loved that movie, Her. And I guess, like, then I really started to try and dive into the sorts of films I want to do as an actor. Like, people constantly asking you, like, what roles do you want to play? Like, what do you want to do? And so I think once I started finding things that were just tonally a little bit more quiet and particular, that's when I really sort of started falling in love with storytelling in a new way, when it's not just story and like epic, and it's, there's something about it that's like a little bit more intimate. Yeah. So Hannah, the transition to going out on your own, how did that come about?
So if you're working in casting, a lot of the time you're working with other people, and I sort of sidestepped that in a way. I did work with other casting directors. If there's anyone interested in casting, usually the route in is that you will assist a casting director for a long time, and then you become an associate, and then you might go out on your own. We're all freelance. But I sort of sidestepped that, and it grew organically, literally just from doing like what I did with you two, was just like reaching out to people that I liked their work and saying, I would love to work with you if you ever want a casting director on a short. And then it just went from there, like shorts, music videos, and now I'm casting features and, documentaries, features and TV, whilst also doing some shorts as well at the same time. And then that's grown organically, but then this year we opened an office. So that's been a really big step and like commitment. And so far, okay. Oh, so far, great. So far, great.
And for you, Lowri, like having done like a lot of filmmaking through university and also production and kind of like putting a lot of hats on, what do you feel like you've learned like through production that like now kind of goes into the way that you approach like, your filmmaking? Like, what do you think the benefits of that are?
Well, I feel like having done lots of different bits of filmmaking before, and like gotten from running to, all sorts, like editing and trying, like VFX at one point, awful, but like give it a go, kind of have a little bit of knowledge about all these different bits. Then going into producer head, it's so useful because you can really empathise with all the people in all their different departments and just know what's going on. And I think that has been really, really helpful. And like, I'm still learning massively the whole time, but I think you've just got to go for it because you're just going to be learning the whole time anyway, like your whole life.
So who wants to tell the story about how we started Frank Film Club? All right, I'll do it. Well, it was in the lockdown. We had all been working on a short film together, and we were about to shoot in April of 2020. And then we couldn't do that because there was a pandemic. So we had to stop everything. But we'd been on calls in the same city, working together so closely that it felt really weird for all of that work to just end. So we ended up having a lot of Zoom calls together. And at that point, had absolutely nothing to do. So we started doing a film club just between us, and we were doing like 4 or 5 films a week because like we didn't have anything else to do. And it was really good, and we'd all pick them and we would all suggest them, and it'd be films that are coming out or films that we'd just been desperate to watch and have never had the opportunity to. And it was really good, and we'd meet up and we'd chat about it. And so as we started to sort of grow Wrapped as a production company, and as we started to think about the sorts of people we want to work with and the sorts of people that we want our films to connect with, it kind of made sense for us to really dive into the sorts of films that we love and try and articulate that. I think something that we quickly realized is together we felt like we could chat very openly about our opinions and not feel like we were judged, but quite often in the room with other people, you maybe feel like you have to put on a bit of a show and pretend that you have certain opinions about films just because you've heard someone else say it, and it can get, just like it's really hard to really articulate what it is that you love. And so we kind of made a promise to ourselves that we would just like keep it frank and use it as a time for us to develop our opinions. And I wonder if you guys have found that useful in any way as you've kind of gone into the rest of your career.
Well, massively for me, because I think I think that I've learned that my opinion and my taste is valid, and it's going to be different from person to person. Like, everybody's got different taste. And like what Maisie's saying, I would find myself sometimes in meetings where I'd feel like, God, I really need to appeal to like what you want me to be in this situation. But like, that's not what good collaboration is. Like, everybody's got to have their own opinion. And like me gaining that confidence in my own opinion has been completely game changing for me. And I feel like I'm definitely creating better work now. And also like diving into films, like, I don't know about you guys, but like when I used to watch films, I felt, this also makes it really hard for me to watch films now, but I felt like maybe I was a little bit more of a passive viewer unless I was really interested in the casting. But now I'm watching all of the elements because we dive into everything, the filmmaking process, and we have great guests, actors, directors, music supervisors, and we're learning a lot more about different elements of filmmaking. I feel like I find it a lot easier to like break down what is it about this film that makes it so special, and then how do we apply that then to what we're making in the future.
Yeah, would completely agree. Because we, like, one thing that we said when we first started it was like, sometimes you go to the cinema and come out with whoever you were there with, and they'd like start slating the film straight away as soon as you're out. And I'd always just be like, I kind of liked it. Like, I was like, it was pretty good. Like, but then didn't really know why. And now I genuinely, like, I would feel confident to be like, to say, no, I actually did like it. Like, yeah. I love films, and I'm usually pretty happy after watching a film. And then it has been so useful, like you say, going into meetings and also having, because there's so many, you can never watch all the films because there's so many films coming out, and there's so many films that were way before our time, but we've tried to catch up a little bit on some of those. But then having this space where you can like put in the time to figure out your thoughts and feelings is incredible, and I would encourage you all to do it as well because it's helped so much.
What about you? Yeah, well, I had always been just like surrounded by older, usually guys, just like chatting over the top of my head about like films, directors, like things that they loved, a film that came out last year, like someone that they both worked with, oh, that's awful, or like. And it would always, like, I felt like people would be like, have you seen certain film? And it would be posed in a way where it's like they know that I'm going to say no, and then they know that they're going to, like, just go on and on and on about it and, like, have a one-sided conversation with someone who's just going, wow, yeah, sounds, I'll put it on my list, you know? So I kind of felt like I shouldn't take up, like, space, I guess, in that, like, in the world of, like, movie buffs. Like, what do I know? Like, I don't really know anything about filmmaking, and I'm just, like, you know, naive or whatever. So actually, you know, being able to form our opinions and watch films and, like, discover a lot of new pictures together, I now just see how, like, many doors that opens for, like, me and, like, the performances that I do, or, like, the scripts that we read and the films that we're making. And I can kind of discover them on my own timeline, I guess. And it doesn't feel like it's just like a race to have an opinion, or like a race to be able to like say, yes, like I've seen that film. So yeah, I think, you know, now I have like a real genuine love for these films, whereas like, you know, I guess I was kind of like waiting for someone to give me the like here are all of the movies that you should watch, like can't welcome into the industry. And I think that we kind of really found that with Frank Film Club, and I hope that it does that for other people, because yeah, the films are for everyone. I guess it could be kind of nice to talk about, like we've said, it's really important to have good collaboration, to work with people that you know, you can make your best work with. What else do you think like we can do to feel like more adequate as like people in this industry? And what do you think, yeah, you kind of need within your working environment to feel that?
Well, I guess in like a similar way to like having the space to talk about films and the industry, it's like trial and error, finding a partner to work with or a whole group of people to work with, because we work together like every day. And then we all work together fairly often, and then obviously on this as well. But finding those people is so important, and like having, you're people you can go to that you know that you're just like on the same wavelength, but also you can like challenge each other enough so that you're not just like, we're great, it's fine. Like you are still like checking each other. But that is just trial and error and just meeting people and trying and yeah.
Yeah, I think the reason why we work so well together, and the people that I work really well with, is that I feel like I can be totally honest with them and not feel like, well, exactly what I was saying. It's like a safe space for us to create good work, and we're all on the same track. We all have the same end goal. We all want to create something amazing. But have you thought about it this way? Or I'm not too sure about that. Should we have a chat about that? And that's how collaboration works. And yeah, I think honesty for me has been like the biggest thing, to make sure that you're being like honest with yourself, because otherwise you won't be happy with the work in the end if you've not like stood up for something that you really wanted to be in it.
Who have been some of your role models or like key collaborators, like whether or not they would know it? Like who have been some of your mentors in this industry?
I did a program last year called Women in Film and TV. I'm sure a lot of you have already heard of them, but they do a mentorship scheme. And I did that last year, and that totally changed. I mean, that mixed with this has completely changed my confidence. I was mentored by an amazing casting director called Carleen Crawford. She cast I Hate Susie, His Dark Materials, I, Daniel Blake. She works on all of Ken Loach's films. She's such a talent and just so giving with her time. And again, the honesty was there, and she really challenged me on a lot of things. So she was my role model before I, had her as a mentor. I was a little bit starstruck by her, to be honest with you, when I started talking to her. So her, and also I'm inspired by both of you, honestly, like every day. Sorry to be corny, but it's true. The women that I work with, I'm like inspired by that.
Yeah, I'm inspired by both of you, but I think that always sounds like everything that you say before "but" is bullshit. It's not. I guess just like when I was getting into producing, like I had so much to learn about the industry, and although I kind of had this platform, I knew that there was just a lot that I didn't know, and I loved working with Lowri, and I've always been like just really inspired by how you really do throw yourself in, and even if there's things that you don't know, you're kind of more than happy to just like dive in and do it. So, yeah. And then also, we both worked with Carol Morley on The Falling. Yeah, Carol Morley, a wonderful filmmaker. And I'd never worked with someone who did so much preparation with the actors and such an in-depth kind of like discovery of like what the film is that we're all going to make together. And I think as we kind of moved into production and also, when we're doing like our casting, it's really nice to apply some of that. So, Karen.
Some people that we actually spoke to on the podcast in the episode about The Lost Daughter. It was the producers of The Lost Daughter, Osna and Talia, and they were incredible, and they like a partnership, a pair of producers, and I felt incredibly inspired by them and their relationship, and like it basically just seems like they just pull together the best crew, and it's just like a really loving environment and like no bullshit kind of, yeah. And they just like go for lunches all the time, and it sounded really great. I just want to be their friend, basically. But they're definitely big role model now. Yeah.
I guess like for all of us, kind of like just approaching different people and just like shooting your shot and kind of like going out there to find like good collaboration. Like what advice or like stories do you have of like times when you've done that? Because I think it's just like it's so important, and none of us would be where we are right now unless you kind of go out and reach for those connections, or just put yourself in a place put yourself behind a door that like people didn't invite you through. And yeah, I wondered if there's any kind of.
Well, all of my work has just been from the beginning has been me being probably a bit too ballsy. And before I'd even cast anything as a casting director, just being driven by like other people's work and wanting to work with them. So yeah, I think you've got to understand what you're asking. Like if you're going to approach someone, understand why you're approaching them, what you want to ask them, what do you want to get out of that conversation. And more likely than not, like, people are happy to help. I think I used to think that I would be a pain in the arse if I was like asking for advice or something, or like, God, why would they want to work with me? Again, like a confidence thing, like imposter syndrome, whatever you want to call it, confidence to actually do it was really low. But as soon as I started like getting into that routine of just reaching out to people that I really, really like their work, more often than not, people will get back to you. And like so many connections I've made in the industry has been that. And when people reach out to me now, I'm like, absolutely, like, I want to help. Like, people do really want to help out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think people want to know how they can help.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've embarrassed myself in a lot of auditions. But, like, I don't know if those people have ever called me back. So maybe I'm not the best person to, chat about that.
I'd say that, like, coming to things like this, and then basically I used to come to quite a lot of talks, and I still do. And I remember one, I can't think what the event was, but one event in particular, I came to London and there was like a group of producers chatting on the stage, and I was like, they're really cool, I want to be their friend again. And like, they are like a few steps ahead of where I am, and like, I feel like I should like keep an eye. And basically, like, now we're working with them. One of them's my mentor, and I think like going to those places and keeping an eye on them and saying hi to them, and just like asking. Well, not even just asking, just introducing yourself and doing that. Definitely worth doing. And
Do you guys have any like big career lessons learned that have been challenging?
I think I am now learning to say no, and I know that you also having to do that now as well, which is really good, because obviously, like, it's great to say yes to everything, but like there was one point where before Wrapped, I ended up just double booking myself, and I just didn't turn up to the job, and like obviously that production company like blacklisted me because that was really shitty of me. And so learning to be like, I actually have to have, like, you have to think of your time and like what you can actually, you need to just be able to perform and not just say yes, and then not perform to your best.
I think I used to quite a lot act before I thought. I thought that everything was about speed, and I had to get back to emails within 3 minutes. And I had to do the job really quickly, really efficiently. But that doesn't make much way for creativity and the type of like stuff that I want to, and the way that I want to cast. So that's something that I've definitely learned. I mean, there wasn't like a specific mistake that I made, but I was going down that path. And again, like you're saying, I couldn't say no to things. So I was just like, right, I'll just bosh this out. But that's not the way that's not why I work in casting. So that slowing down and being more selective with the projects I'm working on is a mistake that I was going to make, and now I'm leaning back from. What about you?
Yeah, well, I think kind of in a similar vein, really. Like, you try for so long to, get to a certain place, and then all of a sudden there's like a lot of work, and it's so exciting, but you know that like, a year ago, 2 years ago, you would have like killed for this opportunity. So like, why would you not do it? And like, that makes you like an ungrateful person, or like you just want to, you want to do everything. But it really does impede you from doing your best work. And it kind of pushes you further and further away from like the goal that's in the future, because the goal isn't just to work, like it's also to like create things that, you know, are meaningful to us. And sometimes you can be so grateful for the work that you know, end up inadvertently kind of like pushing yourself away from finding that real meaning. And so, yeah, I guess like I've been trying now to do these like visualizations kind of like what the next like step is. Yeah, I feel like it's nice to kind of like keep on that track. And yeah, the power of saying no, I think is very, very, very important.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a fear of missing out, FOMO, which I deal with on a regular basis. But it's fear of like, well, this could be the word, this short could win the Oscar. Like, could it? Could this filmmaker go on and make a feature that they would take me on to? And I think that's what I was doing, was like, yes. But then...
And like always feeling like you need to be doing more and more and more, and actually like celebrate what you want when all your achievement, just celebrate everything that you do every week or every day, and like give yourself credit, I think. Otherwise, because it is like, it's a long, hard game. Like it's, yeah.
No one would work in this industry if you didn't get like creative fulfillment out of it. So like when you start going down that road, like say if any of you were like working at production companies or like big companies and it feels like you're losing your love for it, then you probably need to leave, because the reason why we work in this industry is because we want to create amazing work, because we're inspired to do that. And so that's a trap that you can fall into. So yeah, having the power and taking stock and like knowing what you're worth and what you want to do ultimately. Yeah.
Well, that's all the questions I've got for you girls. I wonder, is there anything else you want to chat about?
Well, I was wondering about who is here. So are you all filmmakers or want to be filmmakers, or if you put your hand up if you're making films? Cool. If you want to make films but you haven't made the jump yet? Cool. Pride. Okay, cool. Well, we'd love to take some questions from you guys if you have any for us. Don't be shy.
How do you sort of believe in an idea? Because it's just coming out of your head, and then do you ever measure it up to other things, or I don't know?
I feel like telling it to people and just how I mean I think you just got to go for it and tell people and be excited. If you are excited by it, then show that to other people, and that excitement is really infectious, because I know if someone comes to us with an idea and they are like, this is going to be the next thing, then we are like, oh my God, yes, okay. But if they're like, oh, I don't really know, then you're like, okay, well, I don't really know either. So I think you've just really got to big yourself up, really, and just believe in it and go for it and tell people, I think.
But
yeah.
be like, get some sort of like clarity on what is important or interesting about that idea. I mean, for me, to be honest with you, like I'm not really an idea generator. I have the ideas come to me for the scripts. I give ideas for actors, but it always blows my mind to think about somebody writing a script, like how you get that down onto paper. But for me, like if I'm being approached with a project, clarity in why that project is important. Like I was saying, I'm casting features and TV now, but if somebody comes to me with a short and it's got something really important and different to say, and that's clear, then I'm likely to do it. So yeah, just be really clear on what that is. Like why is it important to you? And if it's important to you, it's going to be important to like other people. Maybe not everyone, but you know, someone. Yeah. Any other questions?
You kind of mentioned imposter syndrome before, and I was just wondering if you think there's anything that the film industry can do for women in particular to kind of prevent them from experiencing that.
Well, I think, actually, I don't know what I think. Yes, I think that I don't know if I have like good answers for what those things are. I think that the more that like women can support one another, or we can kind of like create working environments that aren't like predominantly men, I think it really helps to like it helps for people to be able to like express themselves more clearly. And I think just in working with you guys and sort of what we do, that in itself has given me more confidence. So even if I'm in a situation that isn't like this safe place, like it kind of has built me up to a point where, you know, I can then go out into the industry and the parts of the industry that aren't like, you know, as changed or like as particular. So I think, you know, having more opportunities for women to work alongside one another at the beginning of their career or any point in their career is really important in building that confidence so as you can be, you know, really resilient. In terms of like, you know, the industry being different, I don't know if like the world will be different like that in any time soon. But I think that it would be even more empowering if we could like be put in those situations and not have those kind of like thoughts, you know? And so it's like taking it one step further, right? Where it's creating like an environment where you can build up that confidence, but then also like that can be tested and you can still like find the, find the security. I feel like I'm saying a lot whilst also saying nothing, but
but it's true, and like you're here right now, so you know, there are organisations as well that are making that access better. But like ultimately, the people who are making the decisions need to be diversified and not just gendered. You know, it needs to be the people who are commissioning scripts because people want to watch things from, you know, different filmmakers. So. I think that, like, structurally, that's probably, like, what needs to change a bit more. I think a lot has been done, but it needs to be done a bit more. But I think as well, like, gosh, it's so weird to say, but, like we can be the change. Like, you know, if you're a female filmmaker, get yourself in the room as much as you can. Like, be clear on your ideas, go out with your ideas, and, like, really knock down the doors and do yourself, because then you'll inspire and other people, and as people come up, you know, things will change. But yeah, I think decision makers, commissioners need to be diversified a bit more. Yeah. Agree.
Hi. So practically, you guys kind of spoke about like your friendship in terms of like creating this production company and stuff. Was there like any challenges in terms of like separating business and like personal relationships when like approaching projects and stuff?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we've all just been quite respectful of the whole time, and it's never got to a point where we're like, okay, this is like, I don't know, there's like a crossover that doesn't quite work. So we've been quite lucky that it's like happened quite organically so far. Because we are just quite like, know our boundaries kind of thing. Yeah. But I think that is something that's really important to be aware of, because if that wasn't the case, that wouldn't be good.
I think it's such an important lesson that I've actually, in terms of like lessons learned from earlier, like working with your like friends is like really, really difficult. And that's not to say that we're not friends, but it's like if your friendship is built from a working relationship, that's better than trying to make a working relationship out of a pre-existing friendship. Because it's so much harder to kind of have boundaries or be able to have that honesty, because I think like there's a certain part of friendship which is just like that unconditional like love in a way, but actually in order to do really great work you have to be able to challenge one another. And I think sometimes when you've got a friendship with someone, like it's harder to do that. But yeah, I think we've just like naturally really tried to just like have that like small degree of separation, and you know, in a way, it's like an even more like special friendship. But yeah,
and like respect for the other person, and that you don't want to work with them because they're your friend. You want to work with them because you're inspired by what they want to do or the work that they've already done. And then I suppose that's where that separation can also come in, because I can separate you from being my friend who we can go and have a drink with to somebody who I'm going to watch you on set and I'm going to be like, she's amazing. So yeah, it's an interesting one. We've spoken about it a lot actually. And Lowri mentioned the producers of The Lost Daughter, and we were speaking to them about it. We had a really great conversation with them on the podcast. If you want to listen to that episode, I think it's one of my personal favourites. But just the way that they talk about their working relationship is like everything, well, what you've just asked there, they answer it so beautifully, and they've got years under their belt of like lived experience. So yeah. I've got a question actually for you both. So like maybe some people here might wonder about, how do you go about starting a production company? Like, what are the steps that you need to make?
well, I mean, other than kind of like the, you know, boring setting up like a company and all that stuff, I guess like for us, we really needed to find what it is that we wanted to do, like what is our unique viewpoint, and it doesn't have to be like, you know, but it's like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we going to sit on a script for like 10 years, maybe? Like, what is it that we're like trying to tell? And I think in watching a lot of films for Film Club, we started to define that a little bit more. And I knew that we were really aligned on our taste, but it was so hard to articulate that. And so if we're going, you know, like approaching agents or like filmmakers and we're looking for new material, we needed to be able to do that. So I think like nailing that down, you know, the things that make you tick and the things, you know, that are particular to your company is really important. And then like it's a lot of networking really. Yeah, you know, being available to filmmakers and like providing a lot of value to them and being a place that, you know, is fulfilling for someone to, you know, come into and develop their, like nurture their story. And then also like, you know, the other side of it with kind of like agents and other production companies and like, you know, our kind of peers / mentors and the people that are like helping us as we grow. Yeah, a lot of networking.
Yeah, I'd say networking has been a massive thing. Or we did so many, well, we continue to do so many Zoom calls all the time. And it's the only way, because of film, you need so many different people to be involved in it. And yeah, it's actually great. It's actually such good fun just chatting with people all the time. But yeah.
Yeah, and finding people, like making sure that everyone is doing things that they are exceptional at, so as they can, you know, like run with something and like enjoy everything that they do. Like we kind of been speaking about it a little bit because like there's a huge side of what we both do, which is like the legal side, and you know, how do you like manage that like within the company, and is it someone, you know, is it like a legal team? But then there's you know, struggles with that because like it's not just like simple, it's not just straightforward. Like we're working with a lot of first-time filmmakers, and like although, you know, the done thing is to just like option something for a really like small amount and then say like one day when we make this we'll pay you, it's like it's not really the world that we live in, and people like need to be paid for their stories if you're, you know, if you're trying to make them. So it's like trying to find a way to kind of like work around that and like, yeah, find the right people who can help us do that. But yeah, like hiring people who have who are doing the things that you can't do. You don't just want like a million people who are exactly the same, because, you know, everyone will be fighting to do the same jobs.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Hi guys. I was just wondering, because you were talking about, you know, paying people and everything, and I was just wondering, as a production company and as a filmmaker, how do you go about, especially at the beginning of your career, where you don't really have much work to show, get a film together? Because I know people always say, "Oh, you can do that on your iPhone," blah blah blah, but not everything is, you know. But yeah, just how do you go about to like talk to a production company when you don't really have much example of your work to be like, hey, this is what I can do, but you know, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, that completely makes sense. And I feel like that was something that I used to get told all the time. It's like, oh, you can make a film on your iPhone, which like you can, but also you do, like, you also can't make a film that, yeah, anyway, you know. But I actually, what would you say?
Well, I think that so often people like use their experience as like a way to just like get what they want. And I think that like as someone new in the industry, knowing your worth and knowing like what it is that you want in return for your ideas, despite the fact you might not have made a film before, like people will throw kind of all sorts of things at you. But I think like having the confidence in yourself to be like, you're not, like, we're not working together on these terms. Like, this is what I'm going to need from you if we're going to do this. And no, I haven't made something, but that's why we're doing this. But if we're, you know, I want to start on this foot kind of thing, I think it goes a really, really long way. I think people get so comfortable to just having people bend over and do like whatever deal that they want to kind of cut. I think like having a, you know, real clear vision for like what it is that you want in like a situation is really important. And it gives you, even if it's fake leverage, it gives you the opportunity to be like, well, I've spoken to someone else and like this is something that they're comfortable with doing. And I think it's championing yourself in that way and like commanding the respect gives other people the sort of vision to be like, oh, I see it. This is how I need to be approaching this working relationship. And it gives them a little bit of a guide to, you know, the ways that you're gonna, you know, want to work with them. Yeah.
Hi. So I know on your podcast you talk about so many different types of films, from documentaries, like classics, films that have been shot on iPhone. And I was just wondering what is really exciting you about the next few years of film?
Well, for me, not to go on, but I work in casting. Casting, watching films like Rocks, which is the first episode we ever did, because I pushed it on them. No, they loved it also. You know, everybody wants to diversify stories, cast it. I mean, everyone that I speak to anyway wants to do that. But I think that if you haven't seen it, the process of casting fed into how they created the story of Rocks. And so they created a story around the people that they found to be in the project, which were all non-actors, or I should say first-time actors on that project. And I think that way of working is going to be much more representative and not just diverse for diverse tick box, which I think a lot of production companies are on. And obviously we need to do that because we need to push forward the change. But I think there needs to be much more like organic way of being authentic, representative, and also having that diversity, because that's what we see on the street. Let's see what those stories actually are. So I think more stuff like that is probably going to come out, I really hope, and that is really exciting to me. And I'm going to cast them all.
Yeah, I think that the things that are now, a few of the things that are being made now are exciting and new and different. And I think they're doing pretty well and audiences are liking them. And so I hope that just means that more and more of those things get funded and that the financiers basically become more ballsy and will, give us money to make films.
Yeah, I think I would love to see independent movies not having to be made on like the most impossible budget, and there to be like more general money funneled into making original ideas, and not just things that are kind of based on pre-existing stories or IP. And it seems like we're still really valuing movies like that, and they're still the ones that we hold so closely to ourselves. But with the box office changing so rapidly and the way that we kind of like value films changing, it's much harder for those movies to, you know, be financed. So I would hope that there's some kind of shift, because it feels like we're kind of hitting our capacity of like what we can cope with in terms of like the pictures that we see in the cinema and the content that we're kind of fed. So yeah, I think it, what a great time for us all to be coming up as well. So thank you so much for coming in, listening to our talk.
Great.